Hello, everyone, and welcome to Around the U, a brand new show presented by EsportsU and the Collegiate Sports Management Group. My name is Paulie Hype, and I'm here to bring to you a fantastic new show focused around the ECAC Esports Conference. On this show, we'll be joined by 5 different analysts across our 4 different game titles of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Valorant, Rocket League, and Overwatch. And they'll be going over previous week results, key highlights, and the culmination of the ECAC conference. They'll be building the storyline, which that ends March 23rd, 2022. Today on Around the U, we are joined by some talented analysts. On Valorant, we have Catinator 3K. Over to Rocket League, we'll be joined by the pair of Pyro J and Bass from the Past. It will be Dividing, being our expert for Overwatch. But let's first kick it off to our starting segment, which is going to be Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with Kilamiles. Kilamiles, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Paulie. A lot has happened in ECAC Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and, well, let's get into it. University at Albany beat Hussein University 2-0 in a rather dominant fashion in their set. Meanwhile, University of North Carolina Greensboro defeated Pace as well, putting Pace down 4-3. And, well, University of North Carolina Greensboro is up quite a significant margin, but not as much as another team, because a crucial match happened this week. Bay State College took on a two-time champion here in the ECAC, New Jersey City University, and Bay State College beat NJCU 2-0. Now, to give you a bit of a history, NJCU is a storied roster here. One ECAC, two times, two championships. And even in the season when they didn't win, when they got upset by St. Joseph's, they still looked like they might have been the best team had they just played a little better that day. Then come spring 2022. Bay State College is looking dominant. 7-0, the only undefeated team. And not just that, they haven't even dropped a game. It is looking incredibly impressive for Bay State College. And there is a reason for that. Bay State College has gone out of their way to recruit the best of the best talent. So it's no surprise that they have found a way to defeat what seemed almost untouchable, the NJCU roster. But we'll get more into that later. For now, let's take a look at this highlight, one of our biggest plays here in ECAC. Now, University of Albany's Melly pilots Richter, a trap character, and as you just saw in that clip, they showcase exactly what that means in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Let's get into it. Now, look at Melly right here. They catch Blighted in Holy Fire, throw a cross up there as a surprise tool that'll help us later, and initiate a down air. The trap is set. Blighted has to use Smash DI to escape, and in this case, they do not. The down air connects. The trap swings shut. Melly bounces Blighted out of the fire into the cross, which sets up perfectly for an up B to finish off the top. Beautiful stuff right there from University at Albany's Melly, showing why they are a team to watch. And speaking of other teams to watch, let's get into the standings now to see what teams you should be keeping an eye on. Now, as we mentioned before, New Jersey City University is 5-2 right now. Not quite undefeated as they were previously. An important thing to mention as well, 9 teams, count them on your fingers, 9 are 5-2. So all these 5-2 teams, they are neck and neck in a rat race to try and see who can touch this top echelon. And because they are such a storied roster, let's take a look at New Jersey City University. Now, what you've got to keep in mind with NJCU is this is a rebuilding year for them. For both personal and academic reasons, NJCU has lost a lot of their top talent, namely Zieglet, who transferred over to a technical institute. Now, they have 3 main players you need to keep an eye on. The first one is Rampage, who under Hydra's tutelage has become a scary force indeed. Piloting both the Joker and Byleth, they use that sort of top-tier privilege to give a well-rounded edge that has always been the hallmark of NJCU. In previous seasons, NJCU has rolled out of the gates with a 3 Palutena match roster. 3 of the same top tier. They are committed to keeping that high-tier action in place. Now, Rampage is one of the newest players, but one player you may recognize is Purple, piloting the Pac-Man. Now, Purple has been around since last season, and along with Hydra, they have been one of the key players in keeping NJCU relevant. With their amazing traps and their quite impressive combo game as well, they show why Pac-Man is an A-tier brawler and an S-tier zoner. But what you've got to get into is Hydra. Maybe one of the GOATs of the entirety of ECAC, and definitely of NJCU. Hydra was formerly ranked, I want to say, 14th, 16th in the Wi-Fi Warrior rankings before they started focusing more on school, but that didn't mean they got any less lethal in terms of the metagame. Piloting both the Palutena and Aegis, Hydra is the carry player. One of the only players, one of the only anchors who's able to go up against the best of the best, because they are the best in the best. Hydra has proven themselves time and time and time again, and I've only seen them get upset once. But they need a lot more than just one upset-proof player to take down what's coming next. Then going back to the standings, the number 2 team in the ECAC right now is going to be FAU Red. Now, FAU Red has another 3 key players you've got to keep your eye on. The first one is Arsenic on the Joker. Now, Arsenic, they play a very mean Joker. They have a nice combo game, nice neutral, blah, 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 blah. The thing that keeps them relevant is their mentality. Arsenic's mentality is amazing. Do you know how many times I have seen Arsenic in what seemed like an unwinnable game, down 3 stocks to 1? And in one extreme case, we had a disconnect. Arsenic, down 3 stocks to 1 on the Joker, a comeback character. What are they going to do? They are going to win that game. And when we do see them, they show just how. On their last stock, they become a clutch god, which is so important in crew battles, to have that player who can come in and win these unwinnable situations, win scenarios where it looks like, according to math, you would need to take 1 stock per player. That doesn't even seem possible. Arsenic can, has, and will do it going into the playoffs. Another key player to watch is Archmage on their Robin. Very apt name indeed, because they play such a clean Robin, with plays such as Arcfire ladders all the way to the top, pestering zoning that uses Arc Thunders to just chip away at opponents' mental games again and again and again. And as always, like every Robin, using Premier Item Play and the Levin Sword to finish kills. Now, finally, Omnilax. Omnilax is top 10 in South Florida, one of the most deadly regions in the entirety of the East Coast. Not only that, they have some very nice wins in events such as the CNC Southwest or Southeast qualifiers, and also offline because they're ranked in their region. Omnilax pilots the Shotos. Specifically, they have been running the Kazuya as of late, one of the most complicated characters in the game. Now, one thing to keep in mind about the FGC characters, they are incredibly hard to pilot in an online environment. It is brutal trying to make sure you're getting the confirms you want every single time, and yet Omnilax, despite the fact that their movement always looks a little chunky, when they touch you, you die. You just die. Omnilax is so practiced, so brutal in their neutral, in finding these confirms. And they are definitely, as one of the, I think they're the captain of FAU Red, but I have to double check on that. They are one of the players to watch. Now finally, going back to the standings, Bay State College is 7-0, and they have not dropped a game. A single game, a single best of 3 crew battle. If you look through their history, they are 2-0. 2-0, 2-0, and their standings overall are 7-0. Bay State College, they are the team to watch. They are the team to beat, and it's looking unlikely. And as I touched on earlier, the reason why is Bay State has gone out of their way to recruit international talent. Talent that is ranked in their region, ranked globally. They provide the infrastructure and the scholarships necessary to bring in these high-tier competitors in a way that no school has ever done for Super Smash Bros. Before. They are a new wave in the ECAC, and I'll be honest, in the collegiate Smash scene altogether, and I can't wait to see where they go. And to open up talking about them, let's take a look at what they have in store in their roster. Now, they've got quite the roster. As we get into this now, you've got to understand, Bay State, they have a roster of, I believe it's gotten up to 7 amazing players. And I said, they have internationally ranked players. So I want you to think about this for a second. You bring in a couple internationally ranked players, but you also bring in just some very good local threats. So what happens? Well, those local threats, they train with these top players repeatedly, weekly, daily, grinding day in and day out with these best in the world competitors. And that's not going to instantly make them the top tier, but it's going to make them good enough where they are major threats in their own right. Every single person on Bay State is a killer, but to see how they all became killers, let's take a look at some of them, starting out with Tony Pajamas. Now, at the moment, Tony Pajamas is ranked 8th in Connecticut, and they're up in Boston in Bay State. Now, they run the Ness. And what a Ness they run. If I have to distinguish Tony Pajamas in one way, it's through the PK Fire usage. And if you're new to Smash, you might be thinking, PK Fire, that's the only thing I hear whenever my little brother picks Ness. That's not the case in competitive. In competitive, Smash DI, a defensive technique, makes it very difficult to use PK Fire to its full effectiveness. And Tony Pajamas found ways to do it with constant pressure, constant zoning. Anytime you're off stage, Tony Pajamas will pressure with the up B. Anytime you try to recover, they will pressure you with their up smash and down smash, which lingers over the ledge and prevents many characters from recovering. And of course, these PK Fires to extend combos, to set up for kills, to send up for kill throws. Whatever you want, Tony Pajamas has the tools to make it a reality. Now, going into another player, coming all the way out from California to play for Bay State, we have Floppe. Now, Floppe at the moment is playing Wii Fit, but though you may know them for the upsets they have won on Piranha Plant, their Wii Fit is just as deadly. They have practiced game plans for every single matchup. Every single one. They're so prepared, and they have the best case scenario. East Coast and West Coast playstyle merged into one in one deadly Wii Fit trainer with amazing confirms, practiced camping, and all in all, key solid gameplays that they do not stray from except when put under the utmost pressure. Now, speaking of pressure, we are arriving at the X factor of Bay State College, Sonics. If you don't know Sonics, I have a story to tell you. Number 1 in the Dominican Republic. Top 24. They are ranked 24th, or top 24 in the world. And on the most recent PGRU North America contenders list, they are in the B tier, top 24. Globally ranked. That says a lot. Not only are they helping everyone else practice, not only are they helping everyone else improve, once you beat all of Bay State's amazing top tier talent who has been training with Sonics, then you have to face Sonics themselves. And as you might have guessed, their Sonic gameplay is honestly some of the best in the world. It's in contender for the best in the world. I'll be honest, in the collegiate scene, Sonics is the best. The best. And they have proven it with many, many wins. I have a list of their recent tournament placings up right here next to me. I see quite a few first places in here, especially in the online. Most recently, they just won the Level Up Expo. It's first place. That's nothing to scoff at. I do believe that was in doubles. Yeah, it was. No, that was in singles. Never mind. Sonics has been first placing, winning major community-run tournaments and collegiate tournaments. They are the key leadership figure that is leading Bay State through many of their victories. And let me get into why just a little bit. Sonic is a character who has a burst range unlike any other in the entire game. By charging Spin Dash, they decide when and where they are going to commit. Now, it's hard enough to react to things. Studies have shown that 17 frames is about the limit that most people are going to reach for how soon you can react to an attack. Even offline, most people can't react to that. You have to predict when Sonics is going to go in. You have to predict when a top player is going to choose to fight you. But not only that, many people can run that kind of gameplay where they abuse online's lack of burst range to dominate the meta. However, once they hit you, Sonics is the best for a reason. Sonics will obliterate your stock off of 1 or 2 touches. And if you make a mistake off stage, they can linger off stage to finish you off every single day of the week. You do not go off stage against Sonics, but then you have to. Because how else are you going to track down this slippery blue hedgehog? Sonics is the dynamic leader of Bay State College. And they are one of the main reasons why Bay State is the team to watch. Now, we have one more week of regular season gameplay, and then we have the playoffs. And Bay State is the team. The question right now, if current circumstances remain the same, is not, will Bay State win? Because as things have been looking, Bay State will win. They have been untouchable. The question is, who can step up to stop them? Will it be one of the many teams who have gone 5-2, who are looking to get major upsets, just like we saw last year? As I said, NJCU in the previous season was 7-0, just like Bay State, and they were upset by St. Joseph's College. There is a chance that Bay State could be overwhelmed by the resolve of one team going into the playoffs. But one of these teams needs to find that drive, that panache, that showiness. They need to find that ability to overcome what seems to be insurmountable odds. As I said, the question isn't, is Bay State going to win? The question is, can anyone stop them? Will it be NJCU, the former two-time champion, looking to reclaim their glory? Will it be FAU Red, the only 6-1 team who is looking to get that victory when they are so close? They've come so close in so many collegiate competitions. Can they get that victory? Or will it be what seems to be the foregone conclusion? Will Bay State clean up in the playoffs? Only time will tell, and you can only find out by watching ECAC on the ECAC stream and on EsportsU. So be sure to stay tuned for the last week of regular season and the playoffs. For now, though, I've been Keela Miles, and we've got more EsportsU content with Catinator 3K on Valorant.
Thank you very much, Miles. As he said, I'm Catinator 3K, and I'll be taking you through all the action that came down here in the Valorant section of EsportsU. And we'll start with the games that we got to see live before our very own eyes on the stream, and that was St. Peter's University as they took on Grand Valley State University for a clean, crispy 2-0. That was a hell of a game to watch. We have some clips on that on the way as well. Got to see WSC. They took on Pace, and they took that 2-0 as well. And the University of Kentucky, they'd go on to beat the University of Delaware 2-1. And I told you we had some highlights on the way. If we can get them rolling now, we got a couple clips to see from that matchup.
It's going to be two close B main. They're finally going to force them forward.
Get that initial push coming in towards Heaven, which is just crispy taps all the way through from Polar. Grand Valley had a good time. They had some good showing, some good shots, but at the end of the day, it was just St. Peter's running them, quite frankly. You see them here running up their way. Heaven, they've already got the pincer on, and then you're just stuck, right? On a map like Split, you got to be able to take space, and then you got to execute off the said space. And, well, Grand Valley, they were allowed to get into mid consistently, but as you see come through, St. Peter's, they say, you can have mid. We don't want mid. We want everything else. So when they try to make their way out towards Heaven, they get pincered. They get absolutely dogged on. We got some additional clips to come through with that. You'll see an example coming through as they're trying to make their way into the B site.
Parkour this.
Ooh, okay. We got a clean little clip. You see the parkour try to come through. I mean, you're not quite able to find it. The shots are just a little bit too clean and swerk. He's going to try to be the hero in this moment. He'll come down to the backside of Pipes. No peeks just yet. He goes to throw the smoke. He says, wait, there's a wall in the way. I got to come back around, and that he does. First 1v1 is to be had. He uses that noise. He baits the players out. Here's the player on the defuse. Hears him get off, and he's just got the shot. So Grand Valley, they're able to come through, able to find a nice clutch. Swerk, the solo controller for their team, was having a pretty dang good showing, pretty good utility usage from the Brimstone. But at the end of the day, just that map, it didn't go the way they wanted to. And we got one more clip to go with that from Split as well.
Here comes the Killjoy.
You'll see this clip start to get rolling now, and Grand Valley, they said, all right, we can't get mid. Fine. We'll go garage. We'll try to bring our way in. The orbital strike even. The ultimate's coming into the round. So they try to take themselves all the way into that B site to get a crispy plant. Swerk will throw the util, but look who it is. It's Jeremy. He's lurking. No one's checked him, and as easy cleanup every day of the week. I mean, you might as well call him a mop because he just swept him up. It was that easy. It's that easy for him. And, sometimes that's how it goes. You start having a rough showing, and St. Peter's, they recognize. They bait Jeremy to the backside of sight, and you get distracted. You just got to get the plant down. Time's running short, and well, Jeremy takes full advantage all the way around. So that's going to be a team you most definitely want to look forward to here. Same story, though, going to be with Grand Valley State. We're going to switch things up now. We're going to talk to you about specifically the A division. That game came through in the open division, the ECAC, with you with the A division going forward as it's the last week coming up here, and these teams are going to look to make their way into the playoffs. So if you want teams to watch, you want people to keep an eye on, I'd say Grand Valley State University, that A division, Wichita State, and Ball State. They're all tied right now, 6-1, looking to be that top seed, and that means two of those teams are going to be facing each other this week, which means one of these teams, they should be coming out here as the first seed. So that's going to be exciting to look forward to. It means easier matches, as we know all the way through if you're that first seed. Makes it a little bit easier to try to find your way into the playoffs. Now, Wichita State are one of those 6-1 tied teams, and well, I hate to say this, but they ain't lost to another top 3 team yet. They've been absolutely cruising through everybody this season, only going down to one opponent. So they're definitely going to be the team to watch. A favorite of mine personally, but hey, things always change. There's 4 weeks of playoffs that go around this season, so there is certainly plenty of time. And if you are about the underdogs, you're about the little guys rising up, I got 12 teams for you to keep your eye on. They're all stuck at 3-4 right now. We know the top half of teams are going to make their way in. The top 20 teams in the ECAC A division will send themselves to the playoffs. So these are the guys that you're hoping to win this week. It's Wayne State, Stockton Varsity, Muskingum University, Wake Forest, Pace, UNC, Greensboro, Sunny Poly, New York Tech, Nazareth, Central Connecticut, Loyola E-Hounds, and the University of South Florida. All those teams, they are tied neck and neck 3-4. And we know that if you're tied, if you got the same ranking, the same stat line as somebody else, that's who you're playing that week. So these 12 teams, they're matching up in 6 different games, which means 6 teams will solidify themselves into that top 20 to move on ahead. So if you're from one of these schools, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, whether you're a fan, cheer these boys on. Maybe buying some Wheaties before they get going, because they're going to need to be on their A game this week if they want to send their way home, because it is that final week. We're moving into the playoffs, 4 more weeks for these teams to try to solidify themselves as ECAC A division champions. And of course, that same trend will go on for all these other divisions as well, because several open division teams, and we've seen the potential that those teams bring us as well. And you know, what's the fun of things if we're not making some predictions? And I got some predictions for you. And first, we'll start with these 12 teams. Who do I think is going to move forward here and make it into that playoff contention here for these underdog teams? Now, I've seen Muskingum University play early in the season. They didn't look too shabby. I will say that was on the old meta, so things are a little bit different now as we get into patch 4.04, but they were a team that loved to play burst execute heavy. They love to go quick, and I think this meta really does favor that from their IGL. So Muskingum University, I think, you know what? They'll qual. They'll make it through. Pace, a team that I haven't personally got to see play, but I've heard good things about, and their logo kind of cool, I'm not going to lie. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. That's the second team I think will make it through in this group of 6. Sunny Poly, I think they make it through as well. I've seen how they've been performing. They've been undercutting. If the strats aren't there, the mechanics certainly are. They're a team that I think is going to absolutely shell shock whoever their opponent is this week. New York Tech, they've had some phenomenal strats. Their IGL was absolutely out of it, going insane just 2 weeks prior. I think they have a very, very good showing. I think they're one of the teams that really adapted to this meta quickly and found answers. And we got to hear from them in an interview after that matchup as well. They've only been really honing things in for 3 or 4 weeks now. So the fact that they're able to look so good and so composed as a roster, I think is really impressive. And I think that brings them just a little bit of a leg up going forward here against all these other teams, especially when you got to think about they're playing on that new meta. So that's 4. My 5th team, I'm going to give it to Loyola Esports. Same sort of thing. I just think they've had good showings all the way around this season. I think last week was a little bit unlucky, way of the road. So I think they come back swinging here in this weekend. The University of South Florida, they've been playing everything. They've been playing in multiple different conferences, not just in the ECAC, but they've been playing in the CNC events. They've been playing in mid-season invitationals. They've been playing pretty much everything they can get their hands upon. So I think they're a team that's going to have a lot of practice. We talk about the fact it's a new meta. We've got teams trying to come play their way in, learn new things, adapt quickly. I think there's a definite advantage to be had for the University of South Florida, who are not just scrimming, not just working hard, not just theory crafting, but are playing tournaments. Because we know scrims are great. There's stuff to be learned in scrims, but where it really happens is when there's something on the line, right, which is an official matchup. So the fact that they've been playing all these tournaments, and not just third-party tournaments, but they've been playing specifically collegiate tournaments, I think gives them an advantage going into the ECAC, which, well, when you know, it is a collegiate league. And on top of that, we've got a prediction for the finals. We talked about it. We're going into those 4 weeks of playoffs after this week. Now, listen, I get it. Underdogs are cool. You got to give it to the underdogs, right? They come through the bracket, they go crazy. It's a Cinderella story. We all love it. Well, I'm a realist, chat. Okay. I can't give it to the underdog. I got to give it to those people that I know been working hard, been showing up all season. And for that, I got to give it to Wichita State and Ball State. I think that's who we see make it through into the finals. I mean, Wichita State, they ain't lost to a top 3 team. Well, who's going to beat them? You get in the server with them, you get scared, you freeze up. You're like Han Solo. It's over. Nothing happens for you. It's just like that. And Ball State, on the other hand, have had an incredibly supportive program. They are an incredible organization. I have a couple friends over there at Ball State, and they're doing it right. So I think they're a team that gets the practice and has the equipment to get the most optimal practice possible. And they just beat Boise State 2-0, which is insane. Boise State, another very supportive program, a massive arena. Much love to Doc over there. That man does it right. So the fact that Ball State's able to beat them 2-0, that's confidence for them going forward into this playoffs where they know for sure they're qualified. And I think they can give Wichita State a run for their money in the finals if they get there. But, I mean, you can think what you want. But just know when you're wrong, you owe me $10 Cash App. That's a $ Cat3K on Cash App. So I'll take the $10 here in 4 weeks. I'll be expecting it for certainly. But so you guys know, you expect a lot more content to come through from around the U. And with that, we're tossing over to Bass and Pyro J to take us through Rocket League.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Catinator, for that lovely intro. My name is Bass on the Pass, and joined alongside by me is none other than Pyro J, and we're going to be breaking down all the Rocket League action here at EsportsU around the U, as you see right above us here. We're going to start off by talking about SAGU versus RPI, two frontrunners in their division here, 5-2 and 4-3, and it went down to a nail-biter, Pyro. Game 5 to finish it off. Make sure that SAGU, they have a pretty good chance at playoffs now.
Yeah, that's all what it takes is if you get that 4-win mark, Bass, you're pretty good for the playoffs. So I think these teams knew they were in a good position, but this is kind of that in the heat of the moment. Which teams are you kind of leading ahead from to get in a good position? Bass, listen, man, I'm just happy we get to talk about the Rocket League action here for the ECAC. Is that there's so much developing talent here that needs to be highlighted. And we get the chance to do that. So I'd say it's pretty exciting, but there is another highlight match that we need to focus our eyes in on. That was King University versus Hussein that we had the pleasure to cast for. Bass, how'd that one break down?
That one was rather interesting. Again, another good game, but it is King University here who take it in 3-1 fashion. And the even better part about that is you said we casted it. We also highlighted it as well. So let's take a look at some of the clips from that matchup here, as it really was a fantastic back and forth. King, they didn't necessarily pull away with the series, but once they started feeling themselves, Pyro, oh boy, they started showing it.
It's ridiculous the way that they were able to show it as well. Shrusi was that player to watch. The shots that they came up with as well. I want to mention another thing about Shrusi as well. The way that Shrusi was able to double up with the big Wade in this game was magnificent. Just the dynamic duo on this field, the way they linked up. We even got to interview with them as well, Bass, after the match, and you could tell there was camaraderie, the synergy. It's on and off the field, and King University, a team to watch.
100%. And as you can see from these highlights, it really is a team to watch both for their offense and defense. They were incredibly explosive, and they punished when you made even the littlest mistakes here. Big Wade with a double off the backboard is a great example of how this team has a lot of potential. The crazy thing is that these are clips from our open division. There are 2 divisions here, and the A team is not even the one that we're watching right now here. So King, one of the most dominant franchises, I would say, in all of EsportsU as a whole in the ECAC. Their main team was able to win the previous division here in the ECAC. So, good team. Very, very solid, and a very solid performance here. Like we said, they take down Hussein in a 3-1 fashion, and although it was back and forth, it was shots like this that ended up winning them this game.
Pinpoint accuracy from Shrusi. Bass, you and I almost exploded out of the booth every time we got to see this in action. Folks, this is why you might have to tune in on Wednesdays when we're covering this ECAC action on the EsportsU broadcast, is we get to see awesome stuff like this. And Bass, you mentioned it. This is the open division for ECAC. There's more action happening on the A division for ECAC, namely some teams we have to watch. Bass.
There's a couple of different.
We're getting into that final week of ECAC where it's do or die. Right? A lot of teams, in fact, 11 right now, and even more in the situation that have one final week to see if they make playoffs. A lot of teams at the 3 and 4 stage where it's make or break.
Literally one more loss and you're basically eliminated from contention. Your ability to get into playoffs is basically none at that point, considering the way that this is all formatted with the Swiss. So a lot of good teams here in the middle of the pack, and a lot of them are going to be battling in this final week because that is what we're about to come up on here. It is the last chance for ECAC. After this, we head into the playoffs. So if you haven't established yourselves now, you no longer have the chance. That's it. That's GG's. You're out, and you'll have to try again in the next semester, which isn't even coming up. That's all the way in the fall. We got a summer to go through as well, and a lot of these teams, they're competing to try and make it through the summer, to make it to some more events in the future. So let's take a look. Let's see all the teams that are currently competing here, the current ECAC standings, and as much as we talk about the teams in the middle of the pack that are competing, it's those teams up top, the 4, 6, and 1 teams who, let's say, have had an interesting history against each other, Pyro.
Very interesting indeed. I mean, Bass, you mentioned the fact of establishing yourself as a team. These teams have most certainly done that. You're looking at Boise, Ball State, Kentucky, and mentioned it earlier, King University, all boasting those 6-1 records. But the fact is, those losses came from this round robin style of playing each other, right? King have beaten both Boise and Kentucky. And I think I want to say Ball State lost to Kentucky. Bass, there's a lot going on here that we have to figure out who are going to be those top 2. That's what we get to find out as well next week.
That's really something crazy here. At this point, it's anybody's ball game to try and take the top of this group, but inevitably they will have to face each other again, or they could face whoever it might be here, but they better be prepared. Like you said, the only losses for Boise, Ball, University of Kentucky, and King have all come from each other. So the fact is that they have established themselves as the front runners. They have established themselves with a pretty good precedent going into playoffs. But similarly for the teams underneath them there in Florida Atlantic, Farmingdale, Grand Valley, and University of Louisiana, they still have a lot to play for. I think the reality is that for a lot of these teams, they may not have necessarily been able to show themselves during the actual season, but come postseason, there's a lot more to play for than just the standings, Pyro.
Right, and there's so many teams that we also don't see on this standings leaderboard that can come out big as well in playoffs. This is a long season, 8 weeks to kind of, get used to the playing stage and get used to your teammates as well. A lot of these teams, they're having some veterans on the squad, but then they're also bringing in some new players, and you're working out the kinks. You're getting better collaborated on the field. Once some of these teams that end up 4-4, maybe 5-3, come out in the postseason looking much better than from the beginning when they might have found those losses, they could rise up too. So that's, I think, what makes the ECAC so special, and why we love to highlight it here is because once we get to that stage of the postseason, it's going to look a lot like the March Madness Cinderella stories that are blooming right now, namely Baylor losing to North Carolina, one of the 1 seeds out of here. There's a lot of good action coming up for ECAC that is going to be good. Bass, we have a broadcast as well this coming Wednesday for ECAC. We don't know who is going to be broadcasted there, but namely, I'm looking at those top teams. Who's going to end up top 2? I'm looking at some of those teams that are 3-4 trying to take that final game to get in the postseason. Hopefully we get one of those.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to hope that we can find one of those Cinderella stories here in the ECAC that is able to carry them to a long postseason, or at least let's call it a threatening postseason. If you're not necessarily able to get number 1, if you can at least make a couple of the big dogs sweat, well, that'd be impressive because I don't think dogs sweat. But the good thing is we can focus on the future instead here as we are going into that final week. So I got to ask you, Pyro, do you have any predictions of who's coming out on top? Obviously, we've got our 4 front runners, but of those 4 teams, is there anyone that particularly has your eye?
Yes, my eye completely is on King University. Okay, we got to cast their open division team, which blew the competition out of the water, surprised us from every end. If that was their open division, what does their A division look like? I'm sorry, but they got to be ready for RLCS or something. That's the team I want to keep my eyes on. King University, the way those players, after we got to interview them as well, just seemed like so down to earth. And I think some of those players were even playing in the Valorant competition. They're multi-talented, ready for the big leagues. King have my eye. And, you know, Bass, we could even look at the finals predictions. We could look at anything. What are you keeping your eye on in this final week?
I'm keeping my eye on Ball State here, and the reason why is because they're the only team to take down King, and considering that King has been able to take down all the other teams in that top 4, and by all the other teams, I mean the other 2 besides Ball, not really that many, but still, it is a significant amount of teams to be taken down, especially considering the level of competition, so I want to see this out of Ball. Was this a one and done? Or are they just only going to be able to beat that one team because they took losses to the other 2 squads that have been in the top 4? So was it this thing where they were only able to take down that one big team, or was it one of these things where they've got a little bit more to show? I've got faith in Ball State to do so because out of all of the 4 teams that are out there at the very top, I would say that they're the least experienced in terms of being in these types of scenarios. Boise State has been a staple of the West Coast for for quite some time. Kentucky, same idea. They've been a staple, or at least a solid team in the South Division for quite some time. But Ball State haven't really gotten their name out on the map yet. So now that they do have their name on the map, now that they've got all these eyes on them as they have taken down one of those top dogs, what are they going to do to conclude their season? So I'm interested. This final week is going to show us a lot of big things here, Pyro, and honestly, I cannot wait to see what comes of it.
I love that we're talking about it here and now in the final week of the regular season. Like, this is the time to hone in on this action and see, you know, when it comes down to the grind, who comes out on top. We get to find that out in this final week. But, Bass, I think we get to find out even some more on this broadcast. What do we got coming up next here for EsportsU and ECAC?
Well, we're just about to throw you guys over to our Overwatch division, and they're going to fill you guys in on all the action that has already happened, as well as the action that is yet to come. So, without further ado, we're going to throw you guys over to Dividing, as he's going to break down all of that Overwatch action for Around the U, like we said. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.
Bass and Pyro, thank you guys so much, and welcome everybody. My name is Dividing. I'm an Overwatch analyst for ECAC Esports and EsportsU, and I'm here to bring you the updates around the U for the Overwatch community, starting off with our featured matches of last week. First off, I want to talk a little bit about our match between Bethel University and Georgia State, where Bethel came out with a convincing 3-0 victory. It was, frankly, a pretty lopsided matchup considering how late into the Swiss bracket we were. But Bethel played a very, very aggressive playstyle that Georgia State just couldn't keep up with, and that allowed them to get their 4th win of the season. I wanted to give you guys this clip because I think it's a really nice little look into how Bethel got so much value out of their aggressive playstyle. They start off this fight in a really bad situation. Momo has just died. Big J5 is coming back from spawn. They're effectively fighting a 4v6 right now. 90% of the teams in this situation would back up, pull back, try and regroup, and go back in at 6. But Bethel understands that there's a moment here where the Georgia State composition is kind of on their back foot. And if you let them get away, they're going to be able to stabilize and then recenter their next fight around their EMP, right? So they realize, hey, we have a bunch of ultimates, actually. What if we just send it? And so Zach uses the Transcendence, Quidzy uses the Mines. A lot of pressure, both from the healing and the zoning ultimates coming out at once. It buys time for the respawns to come back. It forces panic ults out of Georgia State. And then they get Momo and Big J5 back before the trades that they got from Georgia State are back. They are destabilized. They have lost members. They have lost resources because they had to react so quickly to the aggressive Bethel push. this is something that not a lot of teams would do, but the fact that Bethel University understood that they had a chance to push back into this when down members, that is a sign of a really, really good team. I think a lot better than their 4-3 record kind of says. Their 3 losses have been to Boise State, they've been to SCAD, and they've been to a forfeit. So I think I'm going to talk about those teams a little bit later, but there's definitely nothing to be ashamed of there. Bethel is a very, very talented team, and I think when we look into the postseason a couple weeks from now, Bethel is my dark horse to make a really, really deep run. Congratulations to Bethel on a fantastic victory. Of course, now we move on to JWU, Johnson and Wales versus Wichita State, which was featured on the ECAC Esports broadcast. And in that one, Johnson and Wales University got the 3-0 victory. I was actually pretty surprised when I first heard about this. I am much more familiar with Wichita State. I've watched them a bunch. They are a very strong team, a talented team that made a deep playoff run last semester. But Johnson and Wales did a very good job of playing a more passive reactionary comp that did really well against these sort of aggressive and divey compositions that Wichita State really love to run. They're a very high-tempo team. And I wanted to bring you this quick clip from their Rialto match to show just how good Johnson and Wales was at being able to dissuade these dives. So this clip starts off with Wichita State in a very good situation, right? You have both support ultimates available. You have the mine from Fluffy But Deadly to try and zone people away. And you get the first pick. Shinobu goes down early thanks to a very well-executed dive from Fluffy But Deadly and Player at the same time. Those are the 2 key people from Wichita State. They're going to be getting up into the face of the opponents and trying to buy space for the rest of their team by just aggressing onto Johnson and Wales. But the second that a Shinobu goes down, Chintalian is there with the hook, and you can see in this clip just how quickly that 600 health just evaporates here. It's actually coming up right now. Bam, gone. It's actually insane the amount of focus fire that was onto the wrecking ball there. And then, of course, the pressure falls on the Player to continue the dive and commits the cardinal tracer sin of getting right up into a Brigida's face. Easy stun, and Player with a fantastic play Robe, was positioned perfectly with their Brigitte and was able to get the follow-up damage on the Tracer to take him out. And now you've lost both your divers. You still have your support ultimates up, but you no longer have the ability to aggress off of it. So Johnson and Wales, they wisely back off for a moment. They let the support ultimates sort of fade away. And then once that happens, they go back in with their own ultimates. Shinobu and Robe clean up, and Johnson and Wales pull off the full hold on Rialto. This really shows how good Johnson and Wales are at this sort of stun and strike composition, where here's what Johnson and Wales has to do in order to make this work, right? 1, you have to hit your stuns on these divers. In this clip, it wasn't maybe the most difficult things. It was a very close range hook. It was a bash on a Tracer that's right in your face. But this wasn't the only time where stuff like that happened, where you had to pull off a stun in order to stop someone from getting too aggressive. And then you have to have the communication and the focus fire in order to actually take down those aggressive characters before the stun wears off. And it worked out beautifully for Johnson and Wales there. They had both of those. If you don't have both of those things happening at once, I mean, you just, the divers don't get punished properly. They end up running rampant in the background. Johnson and Wales end up losing that every single time. So that's why it was so impressive to me, because they were able to pull off the stuns and then the focus fire in order to take them down. So Johnson and Wales, they improved to 5-2 on the season, launching themselves into the upper echelons of the Overwatch standings this season. So And with that, let's try and sort of zoom out for a minute and take a look at the big picture. We're 1 week away from the Overwatch playoffs. So how are we standing? What is the top part of the bracket going to look like here? And really, the biggest story here is who is going to take down Bay State. Last season's champions, they have not lost a match in ECAC since they joined last fall. They are an elite program, not just in ECAC, but in the country at this point, and they have absolutely proved it with their play. They've shut down everybody that has tried to face them. Of course, sitting in second and third are the two teams that have actually taken maps off of Bay State. That is, of course, SCAD and Boise State. These three teams make up what I like to call the big three in ECAC Overwatch. As of right now, they are just a tier above everyone else. They are very, very, very good at what they do, and the only time these teams have lost has been to each other. Last week was a really big week for overall seeding because SCAD and Boise State actually faced off, and in that one, SCAD won 3-1. So that means that SCAD jumps into sole position of second place, and Boise falls to 5-2. Kind of a little bit in danger of slipping some more spots next week, but like I said, their two losses are to Bay State and the SCAD. They've done a very good job against everyone else in the field, so I'm pretty confident that they'll be able to close it out and get themselves the third overall seed next week, which let's talk about some of the key matchups next week. Of course, I am going to be looking at Boise State. As of the recording of this, the matches for next week haven't been generated yet, but Boise is the most vulnerable member of the big three right now at 5-2. They tend to give up maps to the lower standing teams the most often of the three. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on them, making sure that they can complete the 6-2 overall record, whether that is against Johnson and Wales or potentially the University of Minnesota, the two other 5-2 teams right now. And that team actually does have a bit on the line here because if they end up beating Boise State or even do a good job against them, play them really close, all of a sudden they can launch themselves into the championship conversation going into the playoffs. So big overall game for morale, but for seeding, it doesn't mean that much. What really matters in this last week are the teams that are on the bubble. It's looking like you're going to need 4 wins in the regular season in order to get yourself into the playoffs, which means the teams that are currently sitting at 3 are going to be playing in win or go home situations this Wednesday. Those teams include Mount St. Mary, Stevenson, Thomas College, St. Francis, Stockton, Georgia State, and Wayne State. Because of the nature of the Swiss bracket, most of the teams are probably going to end up playing each other, which means these are very, very high-stakes games going on next week. I'm going to be keeping a close eye because those games are going to be deciding the last couple slots of our overall bracket. So good luck next week, especially to those teams, but also to everyone that's playing in their final week of regular season ECAC this Wednesday. I can't wait to see how the bracket ends up shaking out, but that is going to do it for this week's scheduled Around the U for the ECAC Overwatch Division A. I've been dividing. It's been fantastic to talk about Overwatch with you all. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm going to throw it over to Polly now to close out the show. Don't get tilted, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dividing, for that amazing Overwatch segment. And thank you to all the analysts that have been a part of the very first episode of Around the U. Don't forget that next week is going to be the very final week of the ECAC conference. And to make sure you are following us on all socials at CENC_official on Twitter, as well as at EsportsU_official on IG and at EsportsU on Twitch for all the latest updates. Without further ado, that's going to do it for us for the very first episode of Around the U, presented by EsportsU and CSMG. My name is Paulie Hype, and we'll see you next time.